everybody, how's it going? I'm the Meister and welcome back to Aubrey City. In this episode, guys, we are going to be building a mixed residential and commercial section of, I guess you could call it Uptown. It's not quite downtown, but it's close enough. So we're just going to call it Uptown in this case. We're going to be building a mixed residential and commercial area here. And it's going to be mostly low-level or low-density commercial and residential. There's going to be a little bit of industrial, not much. And the interesting thing about this particular district of town is it's going to be a pre-World War II style of housing with the addition of some older and newer shops lining the avenues here. So the basic design of it's not going to be too complicated. There's going to be shops lined along these main avenues that you can see laid down here. In between those will be residential and schools and any other service that would be necessary for a district to run. So yeah, let's dive right into it. The first thing I'm doing right here is just editing my district to make sure that we're using the correct theme. And I'm enabling a whole bunch of them, but I end up changing this a little later because I haven't reviewed these district themes in quite a while, and there's a lot of old buildings that I'd rather not use anymore that's in those lists, and as soon as I noticed them starting to pop up, I decided to delete them and edit my theme lists. So now we're going to speed up the footage a little bit, and I'm going to start to plop down some shops along this main avenue here. So it's going to be a mix of small little shops. There's also going to be some larger grocery stores, and we're going to move into a little bit of big box chain stores a little bit later in this episode. So you can expect this episode to be fairly mixed in terms of building styles. We're going to be zoning a lot of commercial and residential. I'll be going back and forth, working on different areas of this district because it's a fairly large district as well. I'm just recently getting the feeling that the Aubrey City series is moving a little bit slower than it should, and I'd like to speed things up a little bit, so I'm going to be developing larger sections at a time in the city. And one thing I'm thinking of doing in the future is skipping entire districts completely, so not filming the construction of entire districts, because nonetheless it'll be somewhat repetitive. So after I construct this particular district, there will be many more around downtown that'll be much of the same. There's only a certain number of low density commercial and residential buildings available on the workshop, so I feel like if I would show you guys the construction of every district around town, it would just get sort of repetitive and monotonous. So I'm going to save you guys that, and I'm going to try to present one particular thing at a time. So for example, the airport that's going to come in a couple of episodes. There's going to be two airports in Aubrey City, a municipal and an international airport, so I'm going to film the construction of both of those, but I'm not going to film the residential districts and various things that would be around that airport unless I find that there's something worth filming that would be interesting for you guys. So don't worry for that. There's still plenty in stock for Aubrey City in the future. And of course, I just released a teaser for Tim Buckton, which is another series I'm starting. And I'm super excited to get started on that. So you guys should expect some fairly decent content coming in the future. So back to this city, basically the inspiration of this particular district comes from Montreal. While I was living there, I was living in the southern suburb of Longueuil, and that's one of Montreal's largest suburbs. And I was sort of like in the older part of town. I wasn't out of the city. I was closer to downtown, and I was actually living on a street called Chambly Street. And that's a fairly large main road going right through the city, and basically it had the same sort of look as what you're seeing now on your screen. It's all low rise, it's all older wall-to-wall buildings, it's pre-World War II housing all over the place, and There was a little bit of 60s and 70s style buildings here and there, but overall it was an older district. And this is what I'm going to try to emulate, because I actually really enjoyed walking around that part of town. You know, there's nothing luxurious or what you would call nice about it, but it was still a good time. You know, I didn't have to go far. If I wanted to get a haircut, for example, I could just walk down the street and there would be like 4 barber shops within a 1 kilometer range. So I'm gonna be doing the same sort of the same sort of concept with this district. Alright guys, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to build a small residential subdivision in behind these shops here, and it's going to be much of the same story along this whole district for the most part, with the exception of a few mid and low-rise apartment complexes. There's also going to be a large community college in this district, as well as I can't even speak anymore. As well as a fairly large high school, middle school, everything else that would require a district to function properly. I should also mention that most of this district is going to be plopped, meaning that as you've just seen me do with this little subdivision, I've plopped down all of the houses manually, and to get the look I wanted for this district, I didn't really have a choice, because much of the houses that I'm plopping down here are level 2 or 3 and up, I'm not too sure, but they're certainly higher level residential buildings, and they don't grow in this style right off the bat. Unfortunately, that means I have to plop down each building individually, which gets a little bit monotonous, but that problem goes away very easily for you guys with the magic of Sony Vegas Pro. But in the very beginning of building this district, I tried to lay down some residential zones and just let the district grow on its own, and I wasn't able to get the look and feel that I wanted, no matter how many times I've tried. Even with the theme manager, there's not very many nice level 1 buildings. Well, I shouldn't say nice, but there's not any buildings that I wanted in this district that are level 1. Now, I know I could wait a little longer and wait till these buildings get upgraded, but it's just, with these buildings here, there's so many different styles and so many different levels of buildings. See, I go from level 2 to level 5 residential, and I didn't want to limit everything to like level 3, and then you get the same house like 10 times across. So as you can see, we skipped ahead a little bit, and you got a chance to see that little subdivision right across from the road from the one that we plopped down. And as you can see, much of the buildings were identical, and that's something that I wanted to avoid. And you know, I guess the most efficient way to complete that would be to plop every house down manually. So anyways, moving along here, right across the street, right over here, I'm going to build a small or a medium-sized supermarket, and this is based off of a local supermarket that was very close to where I lived in Montreal. So the supermarket was actually part of a little strip mall that was almost right across from my apartment. I used to walk there all the time to do my groceries, and yeah, this is just sort of based on that same concept. When I was living in Montreal, I used to drive an old Volkswagen Golf, and it used to burn oil like crazy. Idling in traffic all day just killed that car. See, when I was living in New Brunswick before moving to Montreal, I lived out in the country, so you know, I was always driving around, never had to stop in traffic. You know, regular small town life, you guys know the drill. But in Montreal, holy, I used to get stuck in traffic for like 3 hours at a time, and you know, it just wreaked havoc on that little car. I don't have it anymore. I kind of miss it, but anyways, it was a bittersweet thing to get rid of. But I think I'm in a much better position now with my new car. So in terms of detail in this district, I'm not going to go too heavily into it, although I am going to be detailing a little bit off camera and on camera, not compared to anything we've done in the downtown district, but there will be a little bit of detailing here and there, such as the parking lot for this supermarket. I'm going to add some curbs and just some beautification here and there, but nothing too intense. are going to see that in this episode there's quite a bit of music compared to usual. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just when I'm building these types of districts, there's not too much to talk about. And in real life, I'm not too much of a talkative guy anyways, so sometimes I struggle to come up with things to talk about to entertain you guys. So whenever I don't have anything to talk about, I'll usually just fill it in with music to pass the time, and I bet you guys don't mind either. So, not that this district doesn't have anything interesting to offer, it's just a regular residential district, right? But the reason I bothered filming this district and making an episode out of it is I thought the end result was very interesting. For me, it was the first time that I've built anything like this. And what I mean by that is this district is completely, or well, for the most part, I'd say like 90% plopped down manually. And it's the first time that I've built any sort of pre-World War II low-level residential district. So, you know, I'm really happy with the end result, and it was a ton of fun to build. And, you know, that's why I'm taking the time to create this episode, and I'm hoping that you guys will find this as interesting as I did. And also, by making these videos, I'm always hoping that it's going to inspire you guys to create similar projects and to set a good example of what can be created with different mods and assets. Alright, so what's going on now is I've just cleared a whole bunch of land and plopped down a secondary school and a community college, and I wanted to make it look like a huge chunk of land was cleared. You know, houses were destroyed, businesses were destroyed to make room for these two establishments, and I think it looks the part, because as you can see, every building that we've plopped down so far is, you know, very small in size. They're only like 2x2s or 3x3s, and then you have this huge, you know, 10x10 high school and community college. So it definitely looks like a whole block of buildings was destroyed to make room for both of these buildings. Also, I find that they look very, or the high school anyways, looks very 70s-ish, maybe 80s-ish. So this part of town was actually inspired by a community college very close to where I lived on Chambly Street. The college had a sort of same look and feel as the high school. Now, for the community college across the street, it's a little bit more modern. It almost looks like they tried to keep with the same style as what was previously there, but with a little bit of modern upgrades to it. And I think it's a very interesting building. One of the most annoying things about plopping down various buildings is that in order for them to stay the way that they are, you need to limit their upgrade ability. So every building that I plop down, as you're seeing me do now, I have to set the level limit to them, or else eventually they'll be upgraded into other different buildings. So in this district, I plot down countless buildings, probably a few hundred at least. And each one of them I had to go and manually set that building level up limiter on it. So that was pretty annoying. But anyways, I guess it's just part of the deal. Alright guys, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit, and as you can see, the district is starting to take shape now, and so we've got about 2/3 of the area filled in, so we're going to move to a little bit of a newer part of district. It's still not the suburbs, but here we're going to see a little bit of big box stores, so we're going to have a Walmart here in a second. Is it a Walmart or is it like a Home Depot or something? I forget, because I'm editing this like a week after I built this. So, okay, I guess it's a Walmart. So anyways, we're gonna get into some bigger stores, some more, I guess the area is a little bit more open, so buildings aren't going to be directly onto the road. Instead, you'll have a parking lot in the front yard. Things are generally going to be more spacious and more open. Initially, what I had in mind for this area was to make it look impoverished, you know, just run down, old abandoned buildings everywhere. But as I was moving along, I thought it would be more appropriate to build just your regular run-of-the-mill, older sort of residential area. And I'm going to leave the run-down, impoverished area for somewhere else in the city. I'm not too sure where, maybe on the other side of the highway somewhere. But we'll see in a future episode. So for this particular area of this district, I want to make it look lower middle class, I suppose. So not to the point where it's below the poverty line, but you know, it's gone through some rough times. So with the exception of this Walmart here and what I'm going to build right now is a little strip mall. It's going to be mostly little mom and pop shops, you know, locally run garages and little convenience stores, things like that. So for now, I'm going to let you guys enjoy me finishing up this area, and I'm going to let you guys hear another tune here, and I'll be back in a couple minutes. After that, I can't wait to get into what is going on in the next episode. Alright guys, so we're just about done here. I'm just going to finish up with a little strip mall and a few shops here and there. And after that, we're going to move on to the final part of this episode, which is going to be deciding on what we're going to do for Aubrey City's public transportation system. Now, a lot of you guys have been bugging me to get to this for quite a while, and I thought it's about time that I do. We built a nice bus station a few episodes ago, and it's about time that we put it to use. So at the end of this episode, we're going to get into that, and I have a pretty special surprise for you guys. So stay tuned. In just about another minute here, we'll be ready to go with that. Okay guys, so after like 5 hours of playing and another 5 hours of editing, this is what I've got. So for this episode, I actually had to cut out a lot of footage. If I would have included everything, this episode would be far past an hour and a half long, even sped up by 3 times. That's usually the speed that I speed up my videos. So I had to chop out quite a bit of footage. But nonetheless, I mean, you guys get to see what the final result of this is, and it's certainly something that you guys would probably be able to do yourselves. It's not anything too complicated, but it is the first time, as I've mentioned, that I've built anything like this, and by that I mean plopping down residential districts one by one. So it was actually a pretty fun project, and it's a good way to get everything to look exactly the way you want it, because me being a pretty picky City Skylines player, I tend to want my cities to look exactly like I want them. This is actually one of my favorite shots that I've ever taken of Aubrey City. It's early in the morning, sunrise over the horizon, you see the skyline in the distance. It's pretty awesome. You see the highway right here. So anyways, I'll give you guys a second to gaze at what we've created in this episode, and after that we're gonna finally move on to the planning phase of Aubrey City's bus network. Alright guys, so now we're going to get into, like I said, Aubrey City's bus network, and what we're going to do today is plan out the routes that are going to go through the city. And the surprise I had for you guys is you guys are going to completely design Aubrey City's bus network. So the way we're going to do that is I've exported a street map of Aubrey City, and if you check down in the description there's going to be a link for both the street map and the traffic map of Aubrey City. Okay, it's a map of the complete city, what we've built so far. And what I want you guys to do is to download the street map image or whatever image you want and use Paint, GIMP, Photoshop, whatever you guys use, and I want you to draw out a bus network. So there's going to be multiple lines, and it's going to be up to you guys to decide exactly where they're going to go, what colors they're going to be, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the best suggestion. Okay, so I'm sure that most of the suggestions I'm going to get are going to be super awesome, so I might combine a few of them, but whichever ones I choose, I'm going to give you guys a shout out in the next episode. And yeah, that's it's as simple as that, really. So what I want you guys to do is once you draw out the bus network, I want you to send your image to me via email. I'm going to put my email down in the description. So send that off to me, guys, and may the best bus network win. So that's going to be all for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to my channel for much more content on the way. And by the way, if you guys haven't checked it out, go see my teaser for the Tim Buckton series, which is going to start soon. It's going to be a new series, new City Skylines series starting in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to put the link down to that teaser down in the description. So be sure to go check that out. And that's it for me, guys. So until the next episode, take care.